Hi, this is Amanda.
And this is Jen.
And you're listening to Just This, a podcast that explores everything around being and becoming a mother or parent.
We're excited to have you join us as we dive into the practical details as well as the unseen energetics on topics that span from preconception to years after birth.
Today, this is another what's coming up for us in the moment riff session. And I don't know where this conversation is going to go, and we'll find out. But what I was bringing up and what's feeling really relevant for me and has been coming up a lot in the last month in various ways is just the theme of really making sure that I'm putting myself first, and how putting myself first, I'm actually doing everyone else a favor, which I know we've talked about before. And what it comes back to for me is remembering, and this is what I always say, is your connection to yourself is the base of your connection to everyone else. And if you are disconnected from yourself, even without knowing it, it's going to be really hard to operate from a place where you're going to get joy from anything else in life. And coupled with that, I've had conversations with people about how, quote unquote burnout, or what we would say is being at capacity, can really look different for different people. And it's not going to look the same for everyone. And that kind of ties in with being able to have that connection to yourself and have that somatic awareness of being like, I am actually at capacity right now. I am hitting burnout and I need to listen to my body. Which these are all so tied together. We've talked about so many of these themes before, but this is all feeling very relevant for me because we can be, as parents, while it might be more acute in the early stages, we can be really sneaky at hiding this. We can be sneaky at hiding it from the beginning, but we can be sneaky at hiding this and not really truly realizing like, hey, I need a fucking break.
Totally. And I think too, just before you kind of head into the depths of this conversation here, I think too, it's good to mention that we as a society, I think, put a lot of pressure on ourselves to not feel this burnout, almost to the extent of like, we're almost robotic, where it's like, well, Sally over here is like doing all this. How come you can't maintain and not get burnt out with whatever your stack is? And maybe it is smaller, but maybe it's more intense, or maybe it takes more emotional energy than what Sally over here is doing.
Yeah. And comparison is such a funny thing, honestly. And this is why I always recommend people, when they do realize they're at capacity, to first thing first is eliminate, and that can be the hardest, social media and really any of that, or just taking a look and being aware of what we're consuming, even to the point of, are we consuming a ton of podcasts? Because these can be ways that we're avoiding, again, our connection with ourselves without even really being aware of it, of just being quiet with ourselves. And consumption in itself of anything takes energy. But yeah, comparison is a funny game, and there's no one like you. You are unique. So there's nothing to compare you to, really. Every nuance of your life is going to be a little bit different. And I also think it's hilarious. As we all know, social media is such a funny, fake reality that is reflected back at us. Even while people are being vulnerable on there, we really don't truly see the most intimate, vulnerable parts of people's lives. And that's just the reality of it. So it's easy to compare, but realize it'd be like comparing yourself to a movie. I mean, even movies, I feel like, get more intimate and real.
I like it. Yeah, I think that, and also too, not just comparing to social media. I know for me, sometimes I'm like, oh, this mom always seems to have it together and always maintains composure. Well, and then when you listen to them, it's like, no, it's not what I actually envisioned in my head about that person. I don't know if you feel that way too.
Or they can I can tell you this. I can tell you I'm 100% this person who, from the outside, people will be like, everything looks great. You're doing so much. And then on the inside, I'm really struggling, you know? So
Hmm.
again, it's you never really have the whole picture unless you have that relation with that person of being in this complete trust and openness. And that's what we need more of, but oftentimes is rare with our connections, right? And
Totally.
it's definitely not what we are seeing, I think, when we compare ourselves. And that's a good practice. If you do have a friend or somebody in your life who does seem to have it all together, I love saying to that person, wow, you look like you have it all together. Because often what you'll get back is a big
No.
laugh or, you know, a
Right.
chuckle. And also, we all go through different phases in our life, right?
Hmm.
There's
Hmm.
phases when you'll need more space and more time. There's phases when you'll need more connection. There's all these phases. There's phases when we'll be challenged more and things will come up. And then there's phases where things will be going really well and things will feel like they're just totally in flow. And it's good, actually, if you have the opportunity and a connection with somebody that you think has it all together and it's going really well, to just state that, wow, I feel like I'm struggling over here. I feel like you've got this, because then you can hear the other side from them. And that just
Hmm.
reminds us that we're all human and we're all
Yes.
doing our best.
Yep.
And even something similar, this could be another topic altogether, is just career change after becoming a parent. But I was talking with someone in the last couple weeks about, I didn't realize she's a therapist, that she's only been a therapist for 10 years. So she had a big career change in her 40s. And then she was talking about all these different phases of her career and her life. And it just was very comforting, I guess, in a way, to remind myself, yeah, people do this and then they're in these really successful places and they're happy, and it can seem like a big thing, but then you kind of realize, no, this is actually not abnormal. This is a very normal thing. Lots of people do this, and we just don't get those things reflected to us as much, I believe. So,
Totally. I like to call it, or in birth, it's the transition phase. It's the part where you want to give up. It's like an in-between phase, right? In
yeah.
between, as they like to
But
call it.
what I want to
So,
touch on here is really being able to build that connection with yourself. And maybe we
hmm
could dive into that a little bit, because
do
it's
it.
very easy. And we talked about this a little bit, I think, on the last thing we recorded, but building in times to actually feel into your body and be like, what does my body need today? Or what do I need today? Because it can be so easy to not even know or be in touch with that. When going and taking care of so many other people or other things in our life.
Yeah,
And yeah,
just hit there for a moment. It's interesting because I was actually journaling a little bit. And that's one of the things I brought up is how in our day, if you think about it, we go about our entire day pretty much. I mean, we do things for ourselves, but not in that same capacity. My son probably gets more of my attention and energy than I actually give anything to myself. I ask him all the time, how are you doing? How was school? What do you think about this? How was that? Do I ever actually stop and ask myself, hey, Jen, how are you doing today? What can I do for you? What do you need right now? It's rare until I feel like I reach that point of overwhelm, of burnout. And you're saying it looks different on different times. Burnout could for me sometimes just fatigue, so exhausted, just exhausted, tired. Not even I've been up late. It's just almost I call it emotional exhaustion because I don't have any other word for it. It's not physical. Other times I'm like super angry. Sometimes I just want to cry. Sometimes I just want to lay and do nothing. Just allow everything to like come through and process. And I don't know what your overwhelmed and not overwhelmed, but burnout kind of looks like.
yeah, I mean, for me, it's been these little moments of anxiety lately. And I think also numbing out is a big one people don't realize, where you're just, oh, like I haven't paid attention to myself and I'm doing all these things,
Mhm.
and almost in a way to like not feel how exhausted internally you are.
Mhm.
I think this is important to mention too, because this can happen at any point. And we've talked about postpartum depression isn't just right after you have a baby, right? This can come up at any point in parenthood, obviously. But it's important because even with postpartum depression, they become more aware that it's not just depression. There's so many different things you can feel, including anxiety, or it can look so many different ways. And that's basically burnout, right? You've used all your internal resources. And sometimes so that can look like depression for some people. Maybe it's like that super fatigue. It can look like depression. But yeah, I think it's important both immediately after having a kid and then also in your journey parenting to just be in tune with that. Oftentimes when we hit these phases, however it looks, we need to like turn into ourselves and, like you said, just ask. Just build a relation with our own soma and body and take 10 minutes every day. That's what my little goal is right now, taking 10 minutes every day to sit. And often when we think of meditation, we think of sitting in silence, clearing our mind. But I'm really trying to sit and just tune into my body and ask my body, where are you? Build this relation with my body as if it was almost a child that I'm
Yes,
talking to.
exactly.
So,
And I want to say too, I know as far as like my meditation goes, there are times where sitting feels really good, lying feels really good, like laying down. And honestly, right now, a big one for me is walking. It's always been kind of one in the background, but that one's really come up because I think sometimes too, we get a lot of energy built up. And so when I walk, there's a lake around, I just get in my mood, put in headphones. Sometimes I don't even have anything playing. It's just I have them on so people kind of know that I'm not just ignoring them. But yeah, like walking meditation, I think is just as important as sitting
yeah.
meditation too. If you, as long as you're in that same state, which is awareness, how's my body feeling? What does my body need? There's some awareness
Yeah.
that goes there too.
I
Yeah.
think for me, the big thing is first just to have that moment of silence, even if it's just a few minutes of what does my body need? And then maybe it says, I need a walk. I need this. But
Mm-hmm.
actually it's the step before the doing is the actual relation of really building that connection with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And
I,
to that point, it's very easy to skip this and think that we are fine and then therefore being what do these other entities or other things in my life need. And really I've always tried to say this even when looking at your relationship or any relationship as a parent, your relationship with your child, your relationship with your partner. But it's easy to skip this part or forget and stop tuning into that part. And you're really doing a disservice to everyone else you're connecting with when you're not first connecting and with yourself and really asking the questions. So it's easy to ask, like you said, your kid, what do you need? How are you feeling? It's hard to remember we need to do that first for ourselves before we do that for a kid.
yes, I totally agree. And for other people too. And I think when we're in the state of burnout, it's also good, if possible, to reach out and see if we can delegate tasks in a way that allows us to open up space to have that time to like check in a little bit more deeply. Something will come up, and it's a very actually kind of a heavier topic where it's going to take maybe more than 5 or 10 minutes of myself to actually go there and be like, hey, this is a deeper conversation with myself that I need. It's not like a quick 5-10 minute check in. And so what my therapist taught me, which has really been helpful, is okay, I hear you and I see you and I want to come back and talk to you about this, just like you would a kid or a friend or whatever, right? I don't have the time right now. So can we put this on hold until tonight or tomorrow or whatever? And then allow myself that space, because it's also that burnout. If I'm like ignoring it kind of thing, hey, it's here. It's like, yeah, I'll deal with you later, deal with you later. And it's constant in the background. And that's fatiguing in its own right, instead of just saying, hey, I hear you. Let's talk tomorrow. I have time. And then create that space. And I think that helps too.
Yeah. Just a note on that. I mean, I won't get too deep into it. There's a practice called parts integration,
Mm-hmm.
which we can link in the show notes, which is a really great practice for if you have a part of you that's wanting one thing and another part that's seemingly conflicting parts of you wanting different things. That's a great practice to try as well. I think also I want to touch in here just really quick. Well, it's really great. And we've talked a lot about reaching out to others for resources. Another big thing that comes up is boundaries and being
Mm-hmm.
able to set boundaries and honor the boundaries your body is desiring without overthinking them. Because
I
it
love
can be
that.
very easy to get in our head and think about, oh, well, I could probably just do this one thing, or just even, well, I do actually have the time to be a little bit more flexible here, even though you may just want to, do things in a certain time. Anyways, there's so many different examples you can use where we are likely flexing our boundaries way more than we need to. And I think practice that is really good to practice when you do realize, oh, I am at capacity. I am energetically reaching my limits and overextending in whatever ways, or I'm not tending to myself in the ways that I should be or maybe would be, then a really good thing to look at is what boundaries should I put in place, or what boundaries do I have that I'm not honoring right now?
Mhm.
And it can be very uncomfortable, but practicing really hard to be like, the next 2 weeks, I am not going to flex my boundaries for anybody. I'm really going to stand clear and firm in my boundaries, or even just revisit and ask your body. That's a good conversation to have with your body. What boundaries are you needing right now?
Mm-hmm.
And just see what comes up. Because that's something I think that is often overlooked. And it's beautiful to tap into the resource and the community we have. It's just as important to see what boundaries we have that we haven't been protecting the ways
Yeah.
we should be.
And I want to point on that as well. Setting boundaries with my kids sometimes, my little guy, and it's not crazy boundaries, but sometimes he would be on me physically, and I was just like, usually I'm okay with it and I don't mind, but there was a few times I would just get so upset, my body would just start to feel like overwhelmed by it, and it's like, no, it's okay to set boundaries with your kids too. Like, hey, I don't want you climbing on my body right now. I don't want you to be doing this to me. I don't want to play right with you right now, and I love you. And again, I'll play with you tomorrow or later tonight. But setting those boundaries too, I think is important. And especially for me, it was even harder with my kid than it is with certain people. Certain things, of course, boundaries are easy to set with kids, but other things like, no, I actually don't have the capacity right now to play with you. I would love to, but I just really don't. And that's those boundaries I found really hard to set with kids because I felt like I should, I'm the mom. I should be able to play with my kid if I have the opportunity, but it's okay not to. I just want to put that out there for we don't have to be our kids' playmate all the time. If you're saying no every single day for the last year, then we'd be having a different conversation, right? But like, the times that we're feeling burnt out, maybe also times that we need to back off and allow our kids to play with each other or play with themselves or whatever the case is. Go to a friend's house or something. I don't know. So you can have that time and space too.
Yeah, it's interesting. I find setting boundaries with children is very easy, but I also relate to children way more naturally than adults.
I mean, I love kids and I don't have a problem with it, but I noticed it was more so becoming when I was a single mom, having that space to basically say, hey, I can't play with you right now. And being the only parent here, that leaves then open for not to fend for themselves, but they're on their own. He doesn't have a sibling, he doesn't have another parent or housemate to play with. So I think it's more on those type of lines. But yeah, with kids in general, I don't have a problem.
Yeah, and single parenting brings up that's a whole, again, convo in itself. And we, an upcoming podcasting convo, we want to record on that. For me, my example like that feels very present is with others in time and just literally not flexing. This is when I am available. If that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work for you, no hard feelings, but that is when I am available, and not bending on that, especially when I'm trying to create these extra spaces for connection with my kid or for connection with myself or whatever it is.
I
That's
feel
the
you
most
on that
important for
one
me.
too. There's so many times where I'm like, why did I say I could do it? Because I had this space and time for them, but I was looking forward to doing, like having some of
Yeah,
my own
even if
time
it's
or my
just
own space or whatever.
even if there's nothing on the
Yeah.
calendar, I just
Yeah.
know if I try to put this in here, just you
Uh-huh.
have even an intuitive hit. And
Yeah.
when I ignore that or I make the wiggle room, and also I'm like, why the fuck should I be more flexible? This is what's coming up a lot. And I have been validated in, somebody actually stating, yeah, you do actually, you're way more flexible for other people than they are for you. And I'm like,
Hmm.
no, I'm going to stop that. I'm fucking done. I'm going to be, at least for now, I'm at a place where I need to solidify some boundaries. And again, it's all awareness, and we're not perfect. We're all humans in this world just trying to figure our shit out, including our children. They're just humans trying to figure their shit out, as even from baby all the way up. And we're just all kind of dancing together. And I try to remember that. But first and foremost, it can be so easy just with the day of life and the way things flow to just forget that the first and foremost, the first foundation of everything is you and your body and your needs and your boundaries. So
yes, honor those as much as possible. And yeah, and I think too, the last note I just kind of want to throw in here is that I think a lot of people have a hard time setting boundaries because they're afraid how people are going to respond to those. And again, we hear it all the time, but good people that really support you, they'll understand your boundaries and they'll respect them too. And I really do feel that's true. I've canceled last minute just because people like my mental health is not in a great space right now. Or I've even not necessarily canceled, but have been like, hey, I just want to give you full disclosure here. I'm in this bubble of space right now and I'm totally down to get together, but just please don't have any expectations of how I show up today. And I might not be very talkative or whatever. And then kind of go from there. And those are like setting boundaries without necessarily having to cancel. And other times I've canceled, then they usually understand. They're like, I get it, take care of you. Let me know if you need help. Those are the type of people you want in your life anyways. So
yeah, and this comes back to something we've mentioned on other podcasts, but I think it's relevant and important to mention again, is just often too, we have all these stories in our head about how things will turn out if we cancel or if we do what quote unquote is wrong from society. Like we've been taught is wrong, which there is no right or wrong, but are disrespectful or whatever we've been told. And honestly, the best thing we can do is honor ourselves and honor our intuition and honor our needs. And then from there, we can come from a place, like I said, you're giving a disservice to anyone else if you're not doing that first. And oftentimes, there'll be times when people will be pissed off or whatever, but oftentimes we have these ideas and really we're letting ourselves down more than we are anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And it's our own internal stories and our own internal conflict versus there really being an issue with other people actually having any problem with that. So,
and if that person had an issue, that's their problem.
yeah.
I mean, like kind of like to put it right, that's their own stuff that they actually have to maybe confront.
And great relationships will say that. I have friends who come back and been like, I can't talk or whatever it is. And then I literally have told them, oh, wow, that felt really triggering for this and that reason. Mm-hmm. And just stating it, wow, okay, like, I'm noticing for me and this friendship when you said that, and it doesn't have to mean anything about them. Just like I'm noticing that I'm actually feeling hurt or I actually feel whatever it is that's coming up. And then hopefully you guys can just see each other as reflections of how you guys are feeling through whatever mm-hmm. shift or change is going on. And that's super powerful too. It can be hard to do. Not everyone's really there, mm-hmm. but it can be very powerful. So
absolutely. Communication with yourself.
Communication. And also just awareness.
And self-awareness. Yeah. And you're doing enough and you're not a robot and we don't need to be, I don't know. Like,
we are here, living in a human experience.
It's enough. Just being human and alive, keeping yourself alive is a lot of work. So
is there anything else relevant for you around this topic that's coming up or any other things you want to throw in here?
I guess the last thing too that comes up is just to be patient and kind of sometimes remind yourself to have the self-talk. It's going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. Sometimes that's all I can do is just that mantra. It's all going to be okay.
Or just being, everything's good right now. Everything's good right now. And one step at a time. That's what I always try to remember too, is just take things one step at a time, 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, one baby step at a time. Yeah.
Yeah. They said too, they say anxiety is fear or worry of the future. So if you're starting to feel anxiety, maybe it's something that you're thinking about of the future. And depression is about the past.
Yeah.
So if we are feeling those feelings, then we can kind of check in like, hey, am I anxious about the future? And if I'm depressed, is there something that I'm spending too much time thinking about in the past?
And I also want to just plug, we don't have to always logically work through our emotions. Like we can let our emotions be emotions
Yeah.
And I think that's where, instead of logically working through these emotions or trying to suppress them, when we notice these emotions, that's the most important time to just tune into our body. And that's when it is great to have a conversation, not even asking, why is this here? Or what's going on? And more, what do you need right now?
Yeah.
And that's it. What do you need right now? You don't have to explore the emotion in any deep way, rather than just check in with yourself with what you're needing at that moment, and then moving from that space.
Yep. I love it. Yeah. I mean, we don't have to. We could accept it, feel the emotion, and just throw it out. Peace.
Yeah. Just let it move,
But I do love it. Let it move through. Let it go. Like you don't have to, analyze it and okay, it's understood now.
Yeah. You're feeling it.
Feeling it.
You're feeling it. That's all you don't need to go further if you don't want.
Just like throw that out. Yeah, if you don't want to. I love it. And I love the checking in, like, what do you need? That's the best. So it's okay. What do you need? What do you need? I'm here for you. I gotcha. Yeah. Good.
Awesome. Well, I hope this was helpful for somebody out there. And as always, leave us a review and then reach out. We love to hear from you. And if there's any topics or anything stemmed from this conversation that just inspired you or you want to dig deeper on, let us know.
Yeah. Love to hear from you. Hey there, amazing listeners. We just want to say a huge thank you for tuning into our convo on the Just This podcast today. We appreciate each and every one of our listeners, and your continued support means the world to us.
If you enjoyed this episode and found value in it, we would be incredibly grateful if you could take a moment to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform, or share this episode with someone you think would enjoy it too. Your reviews and shares not only motivate us, but they also help others discover our show.
We're also all about keeping the conversation going and hanging out with our incredible community. Head over to justthis.site, that's justhis.site, where you'll find additional resources, ways to connect with us, and join the conversation, plus some more goodies.
Thank you again for being a part of the Just This community. We'll be back soon. Until next time, remember to take care of yourself and embrace the wonder as you navigate this extraordinary adventure.